Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's event, Cybersecurity Basics for Charities, a chance to learn, question, and build cyber confidence. This year, rather than cancel TechFest events, we are aiming to be the biggest and most ambitious programme we've ever had of public and educational events ever, and we're delighted to be partnering up with Converged Solutions to deliver today's event across Scotland. You'll see that your cameras are off and your microphones are muted, and today's event will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel, TechFest Aberdeen, afterwards. So if you know anyone who would have benefited from today's talk, please do send them there so that they can share the experience as well and pass on that knowledge. The online format has opened up new possibilities for our audience, and going online has allowed us to no longer be restricted by geographical reach. We've been able to engage with many, many people. In fact, I think we've got an international audience on today, but maybe they're not wanting to comment in the chat box just yet, but it's lovely that we've been able to do that. So thank you. As ever, our thanks go to our partners, Converged Communication Solutions, who are kindly supporting today's event, but also to Cyber Scotland Week, who've promoted it across their networks as well. Converged have made a commitment to work with as many charities as possible this year and to arm us with the fundamentals and the tools required to more confidently protect and understand the online threats. The aim of our event this morning is to help charities protect themselves against online crime. As we've all transitioned to remote working, we are relying on digital communications more than ever, and many volunteers and team members have fallen victim to cyber threats. Remember what I said before, if you have a question, please use the chat box to answer it, and we'll do our best to endeavour to answer as we go, but there will also be time at the end for questions. We're going to be running a few polls as well that will provide an interactive element. So I'm delighted now to hand over to Robbie Ross from Converged, our expert for today's talk. Over to you, Robbie.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Let me get my screen shared so everybody can see this. So hopefully you can now all see that. I am absolutely delighted to be here today. Personally, I am. I've been coming to TechFest events for years now. And so to actually be here representing Converged with TechFest doing this is absolutely a thrill for me. And I'm so delighted to be here. This is really all about giving charities basic non-technical information that's to help them protect themselves from cyber attack. And I can tell you it's going to be non-technical because I am non-technical. My background is non-technical. So I've come here to Converged after 22 years with Grampian Police and Police Scotland. My last role was in the Cybercrime Prevention Unit. And I do not come here with all that technical knowledge. We have those experts at Converged. I come here with a passion for cybersecurity and teaching it to people in an easy to understand way. So by the end of today, the aim is for all of you to be able to take away some simple things that you can implement today that are going to be low cost, if not even actually completely free. It's just going to take a bit of your time, but they will make your charity more secure. So that's what I'm here to do today. So without any further ado, let's get cracking. And let's start off with, what is cybersecurity? So cybersecurity is how the public, organizations, charities try and reduce the risk of them being a victim of cyber attack. It's about protecting our data, the services we use to access that data, and the devices we use to input that data. So as you can see, it's hugely widely varying. It's not just about protecting that data, the electronic data that we've got. It's about how we access it. It's about protecting our devices, our laptops, our iPads, our computers, and all those things, as well as that data. So that's what cybersecurity is. And why should charities care about cybersecurity? Well, I'm sure all of you will have seen this statistic. It's one that does come out quite a bit. So this is from a survey done last year by the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. And it said 26% of charities experience cybersecurity breaches or attacks in the last 12 months, okay, which is, that's a really high number. And it's maybe not a particularly positive number, but there is a positive number in there. And I want to bring it up, and it's this one: 74% of directors, trustees see cybersecurity as a high priority for their charity. And all of you who are here today are part of that 74%. You see this as something that you acknowledge needs to be looked at. It's something you have to be able to take some control over. So you've taken that sort of first step by coming here today, hopefully, and listening to this. But I take a lot of heart from that, and I'm sure that number is going to go up as we move forward, particularly as people realize the important role they play, and they do do play an important role. Nothing is 100% secure when it comes to cybersecurity. If I could sit here today and say to you, this piece of software or this piece of hardware, if you go and buy it right now, switch it on, you will never, ever get a cyber attack. By the end of next month, I'm probably retiring to the Bahamas. Well, at least when somebody allows me to travel to the Bahamas, because I'm going to make a lot of money. If somebody can do that, they are going to make a lot of money. But it's very unlikely because cyber evolves all the time. And it has to look at three important parts to come together to be able to provide that security. So it's about the people. Now, that's just not people like me doing cybersecurity talks. It's not just about the people in our IT departments or the people that work with cybersecurity and the likes of Microsoft, whose products we use. This is about everybody on this call today, and realizing that you have an active part to play in keeping your data and your networks and your computers safe. It's about the processes we need to have in place. It's about policies that we need to actually follow. So are we making sure that we're using the correct passwords, which we're going to speak about a little bit later on? Do people know what's expected of them when they talk about your charity or your organization, for example, in social media, or the work that you're doing, or maybe some of the donors that you're working with? Are you supposed to be talking about that publicly? And then it is also about that technology. It's certainly not sitting here saying, get the first two right, it's fine. We do still need the firewalls. We do still need the antivirus software and things like that. But without the three of them coming together, we're not going to protect ourselves as well as we can. So before I go any further, I've got the first poll to bring up today, and that is this, and it should hopefully appear on your screens right now. What puts you off cyber security? Okay, so I love having these polls. This is the first time we've done this, but I love them because it gives me a chance to have a quick drink. So I'm just going to give it a few seconds here while we get people to vote. And hopefully at the end of this, you'll be able to see this. This is completely anonymous, so we are not getting any information about who's saying this. So please be honest. And I think we're just coming, I think that's the last few ones there. So if we end that poll there, and then we can hopefully get a chance to look at. So we can see here, it is too technical. There's too much jargon to understand. I don't consider it a risk for my business, and it will cost too much. Well, hopefully we'll kind of look and address all of these things as we go through today. The technical one, I was very fortunate to be at a presentation being given by the ex-chief executive of the National Cybersecurity Centre. So we're going to speak about them later on, but they're basically the cybersecurity arm of GCHQ. He came to the police college, and I got to hear him speak, and he started off by saying, we have got to improve the way that we speak about cybersecurity, and for people to understand it is not a techie, geeky subject. Now, I am a techie, geeky person, proud to say that, I absolutely am. But that doesn't help explain to people who need to know what they have to do to protect themselves, because they will suddenly think it's too technical. It's too technical for me to understand. There's too much jargon. So what I'm going to do is I want to be able to sort of have a look at that today. So let's have a look at some of that cyber jargon, because it is something that in our industry we are actually quite bad at. So straight off the bat, hacker. I will guarantee most people sitting on this call today, when they hear the word hacker, will go, that's a bad person. That's not a bad person. A hacker is somebody who is basically able to take a piece of software or technology and make it do something it wasn't necessarily designed to do. They can be the good guys. We have an ethical hacker here in Converged whose job it is to actually test these systems. And if they find a problem, they report it. So hacker is not a blanket term for what I would deem cyber criminals. A hacker can be a good person and they can do really good things. Phishing. We're going to talk about phishing later on. You'll all know what this is. Emails that land in your inbox that are trying to get you to click on a link or open a document, which is probably going to ultimately land up with a piece of malicious software or virus landing on your computer. Spear phishing. That's when we're doing more targeted phishing attacks. So people will decide they want to attack, for example, C-suite levels. So CEO, CSO, CFO, COO, they'll target them specifically. they could even target a specific person in a company or a specific sector of companies. But when it's more targeted and they're specifically going after people in certain roles, we call that spear phishing, because they're very much targeting, throwing it straight at them. And of course, what can ultimately happen is a piece of malware or malicious software can end up being launched to your computer because you click on a link which takes you to a website. And when you're on that website, in the background, some malicious software is downloaded onto your computer. One of those, which we'll speak about later, that might appear as ransomware, which is a piece of software that locks your computer, locks all your files, and you don't get access back to them until you pay a ransom. So we'll speak about that a little bit later. Firewall, just there to prevent any unauthorized access to your network or to your computer. Just think of it literally as a virtual wall. It's there to try and protect you and stop anything bad from getting through. And then on top of that, we have antivirus. So software that runs that's to detect any malicious software that's maybe got onto your system. And when it finds it, quarantining it and then deleting it. So those two work in tandem together, and everybody should be running those on their computers and on their networks. Patching is a classic example of using a word that really all that is it's just updating your software. That's all that is. So some software, or most software, when it comes out, some of the hackers, good and bad, will find that there's a little hole, virtual hole in that software that allows them to be able to exploit it and be able to carry out attacks on people who have that software, because there's actually a bit of a virtual gap that allows them to get through and onto the network. So what do you do when you find a hole? You stick a patch over it. And that's what this is. And what this is just updating your software to make sure that any patches, any holes, sorry, that are on your system are patched. So why we just don't say it, update software. It's just, again, it's what we do in our industry. Social engineering, manipulating people into carrying out specific actions or tasks or providing information to you that that person actually doesn't want to give, about striking up a bond, striking up a rapport, and getting you to trust that person. Now, that could be over something as simple as your favorite sports team, and that could be done in a bar. It could be done over a telephone, a text message, an email. It could be somebody claiming to be from your bank, but getting you to trust them and you giving them some information that actually, in hindsight, you reflect upon and go, I actually don't think I should have given them that. And then just, we can only pick out a few. IoT, Internet of Things. So you get up this morning, cyber is everything. It's all in what we do. We pick up our phones maybe off our bedside tables to check our messages, and we might even use that phone to switch the coffee machine on or to switch a radio on. We've got them built into our fridge freezers, into our washing machines. All these things have software, and all these things can have vulnerabilities, and they're on your network at home. So we need to keep those up to date as well. So that's Internet of Things. So that's just a quick grab at some of the jargon that we have that, if truth be told, if we could remove and make a little bit easier, people might feel a bit more comfortable. So why target charities? So there's a culture of trust in charities. So if somebody phones you and says, I want to make a donation, it's likely that you will and you'll want to trust them. It always comes from a place of trust. Cyber criminals may also believe that charities won't have the resources to protect themselves. And that can certainly be true, is that people, as charities, you will have a finite amount of money that you can spend on certain things. And the chances of you having money actually put to one side to pay for cybersecurity or pay for anything that's to help protect your cyber world, you probably don't have. And that's why today we're going to look at things that you can do that you should be able to do quite easily. And then there actually has been research done by the National Cybersecurity Centre that shows a low level of awareness amongst charities who don't see themselves at risk. But that's why that 74% at the beginning is so important, because it's showing that actually the directors and the trustees are now realizing how important it is. But that's some of the things that might be going through a charity's mind when they're thinking, I might want to target this charity. So what do the cyber criminals want? Well, they want your money. They want to either get your bank information so they can go into your banks and they can take it, or they'll use an opportunity to install a virus onto your computer, which then means you ultimately you end up with malicious software, ransomware on there that you're going to have to pay to release. So either way, they're trying to get your money in whatever way they can. They want your information. They want about as much information about you and the people that work there as they possibly can. Okay. Personal names such as names, email addresses, passwords, credit card information, any information that's on your system, they want to be able to get a hold of that. They want your address book. They want what we call the personal identifiable information about your donors. They want to be able to get onto your system and then make it look like you are contacting your donor, maybe asking to make another donation or asking if they'll sponsor something. But actually, it's the bad guys who've got onto your system, possibly through a phishing email, which instead of downloading malicious software onto your computer, has actually allowed them access onto your computer or onto your network. And they can then pose as you in email communications, and they're able to then target the donors that you have. They may also want access to the bigger fish. So they may actually want access to the local authorities that might provide you with grants that you give out, or the big companies, the oil companies, for example, here in Aberdeen, that might actually then give sizable donations to charities. If they can then find a way of coming through you to them for that bigger fish to trust you, then they'll use you to be able to make that stepping stone as well. So that's just some of the things that you have, like any other business has and any other organization has, that they may actually want access to. So here's our next question. How do you think the majority of cyber attacks start? So that should pop up on your screen there. And again, you'll see 4 options. You get a chance to have a wee read through and pick one. Give it just another few more seconds. I feel like I need elevator music or something, perhaps just playing while we run the polls. Okay, I think that seems to be us. So if we stop it there. So no surprise, clicking on something in a spam email, yeah, absolutely. Giving someone information over the telephone, absolutely. We're going to speak about that as well. Leaving my laptop unlocked and unattended in a public place. A quick story: when I worked for the police who work in cyber are part of something called the Cyber Protect Network, and a colleague of mine told me a story when he was in an airport one day, sitting in a coffee shop, and the guy next to him, who he'd never met, knew nothing about, was working on his computer, and turned to my colleague and said, "Would you mind just keeping an eye on my computer while I nip to the toilet?" And he left his computer next to my colleague, completely switched on, logged in, didn't even lock it or close the lid, let alone take his bag with him. And he had no idea who my colleague was. When he returned, my colleague educated him what his role was and his job, and sort of gave him some advice going forward. But that's how trusting people can actually be, that they actually will turn to a complete stranger and say, "Yeah, could you look after this?" So, but clicking something in a spam email, absolutely. How do they attack you? The most common way is phishing. And when I say common, I really do mean 91% of all cyber attacks begin with a phishing email to an unexpected victim. 91%. So something that is actually ultimately very easy to do and has a very high success rate is responsible for so many of the cyber attacks. And I'm not just talking about the cyber attacks. It could be to individuals at home or small ones that happen to small, medium enterprises. I'm talking about some of the biggest cyber attacks that we've ever seen in the world have started with a phishing email. So it's one of those things that you think to yourself, if we could get this right, if we could educate the people that we work with to know what to look for, we could really have a big impact on that number. So I want to show you an example of an email, a phishing email from one of the most, probably, they definitely are the most phished company in the UK, if not possibly even Europe and the world, and that's HMRC. So this email here is pretending to come from HMRC, and you can see at the top, HMRC, Helen Stonehurst, and they've created an email address, applications@hmrcinquiry.one. Now, many people will look at that and go, HMRCinquiry.one, that is not an HMRC email address. And we know it isn't. But also many other people, through no fault of their own, will look at that and just see those 4 letters, HMRC, and go, well, if it's in the email address, it must be real. But we can all go and buy the web domains to be able to create these email addresses easily. Any of us can. You can do it today. So they've made an attempt to make that look authentic. They've given everybody a unique reference number. I could give everybody on this call a unique reference number today. It counts for nothing, but it makes it look official. £765, that's what HMRC owe you. Who does not want £765 back in their pockets? Then they've taken the genuine email part, the disclaimer part at the end of a gov.uk email and put it at the end. So those URLs, those links you see in there, if you click those, they would take you to genuine government websites. So it gives that believability. And then there's obviously a nice link in the middle that says get started. So they want you to click on that. And when you do, you're going to end at something that has the branding of HMRC. This looks like the HMRC and the gov.uk websites. Simple, plain, black bar at the top, white boxes. They want all of your information, including your mother's maiden name. Why would they want that? Well, simply, it's the most common answer that we use when we try to reset our password when we forget it. When you set up that new email account, sorry, that new website account, and it says to you, please put in your mother's maiden name because if you forget your password, we'll ask for this. So that's why they're asking for it, because that just gives them even more information that they can use against you. But before you do anything, there's two things I want you to remember. One, and it's the easiest one of all, HMRC will never contact you via email. They won't contact you by phone and they won't contact you by text message, whether they owe you money or you owe them money. It will always be via letter. So if you ever get something telling you that we've seen the ones where the police are apparently going to come and arrest you, ignore them, okay? And we'll talk about what to do in a second. The other thing to do if you've landed on this page is look at the URL at the top. That's the address bar at the top of the page, because that is not the website address for HMRC. This is. And that .com.cn that you see at the beginning tells us that that page originates and sits in China. So why would HMRC have a Chinese website? And of course they don't. So that's a really simple way of the different things that you need to look for in an email claiming that they're from you. They will also put in some urgency to it. And that's also something that you need to bear in mind. If something's putting a bit of pressure on you and making you almost a little bit scared that if you don't deal with it straight away, you're going to miss out on something, that's another technique that they use. So what should you do? If you get a phishing email, what's the best thing to do? Right. First of all, be suspicious for them. Look out for those urgent emails. The classic, offering something for nothing, you owe me money, I owe you money, anything like that. Be suspicious. Trust but verify. If in doubt, use a trusted number to speak to a trusted contact and verify, change the details, particularly if you get something coming through where people are asking for bank information, they want to change bank information, they want to update an invoice. Use a trusted number to call that person and say, did you send this? Have you asked for this information? Before you just give them that information in a return email. Obviously, don't click on any links or attachments that are contained in it, because that's how the malicious software is going to be released onto your computer. Do not reply to it. Sometimes they'll be quite benign emails, but what they do is they wait for the reply. And then once they get the reply, that's when they send the one that says, could you click on this link to update your bank information? Could you open this document to confirm a budget, whatever it is? So just don't reply, and then you won't get caught into that web of reply emails. Don't forward it. Don't let anyone think it's legitimate because it's come from you. So don't just blindly forward it to people, but you do need to tell others. You need to spread the word. Take a screenshot of it, send that in an email, but you need to tell people and say, I've seen this. I know this is a phishing email. I want all you to be aware of it as well. So I'm telling you, report it. The quicker you report it, the sooner remediation work can begin if you've gone and clicked on something. And we'll talk about that in just a second. And then delete the message. Don't leave it in your inbox where you might accidentally open it at a later date through just forgetting that it's there. So I mentioned reporting it there. If you have an IT company, some of you might, if there's a company that provides you with an IT service and you're getting phishing emails, report it to them. You can report every single phishing email you get to the National Cybersecurity Centre, who will investigate it. And if need be, they will take down any websites that are associated with that phishing email. And they have taken down thousands in the year that this service has been operational. All you do is just click forward, put in report@phishing.gov.uk. You'll get a reply email from NCSC saying, thank you very much. We will investigate it. You'll never hear anything again, but you've done your bit and you can delete it. I often would get asked, do I report it to the police? Police Scotland cannot deal with every single phishing email that gets into people's inboxes. So I always say, no, don't. Just do the steps that I've taught you there. But if you click on it and you do get locked out, or you do find you've got a virus, or you do find that money's been stolen or something like that, yes, you absolutely need to call Police Scotland and 101 and report it to their cybercrime unit. They are woefully got a massive amount of information that is not going to Police Scotland, and they can't do their job as well as they're able to if we don't give them that intelligence. The other way that they can also contact you is via the smishing and phishing. I don't particularly like smishing and phishing. Smishing is phishing via SMS, via text message, and phishing is phishing via voice. So it's telephones, basically. So here's classic smishing that we've all seen in the last year. Identified unusual activity in your bank. Because of the COVID-19 outbreak, we're giving you a free iPhone 11 to spend time at home. And the government wants to give you £458 as part of its promise to battle COVID. Every single one of those complete scams. And what they would do is you would click on it, you'd be taken to a web page that will ask for the personal information from you, bank information and things like that, which you'll then give. And then the cyber criminals go off and do what they do with it. But all of those are completely fraudulent. And I got one just the other day, actually from Lloyds, who I do not bank with, but that's the text message that came to me just the other day. Just like with emails, you can report suspicious text messages, copy and paste it into a new message and send it to 7726, which for those of you that remember the old phones where we used to have push A 3 times to get the letter C, 7726 spells out the word spam. So you can send that to Ofcom and they will investigate it. There's no fear or anything about forwarding, just like with the email, don't worry about sending it on, but they need to be able to see it if they're going to be able to take any action about it. Remember also, if it's from a bank or something, you can contact the bank as well and say, I've had this phishing email claiming to be from you, and they will often ask you to send it on to them as well. So you can do that. And then there's the phishing, the art of using the telephone. Your computer's been infected. Have you ever been caught by Microsoft who suddenly seem to know that your computer's running slow? There are some suspicious transactions on your account. Congratulations, you've won a prize. All the way of getting you talking and providing them with information. And unfortunately, that's what happened when cyber criminals phoned up claiming to be from the bank here and persuaded the person to hand over personal and financial information. Absolutely terrible, the amount of money that was lost. But if you look at the same time that happened, in July 2017 alone, £2.5 million stolen from businesses in the Highlands. We have heard previously where people believe that where they're located means that they are not going to be a target. Yet we also saw when I worked in the police, there was a huge big public rollout, and when they started to roll out broadband, faster internet access in the Western Isles and in the Northern Isles. And then all of a sudden, we started to see an increase in reporting of cyber attacks because the cyber criminals realized, oh, there's people coming online now. They might not know about our techniques. So we'll actually go after them. And that's exactly what happened. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter the size of your business or your charity. You've got something that they want. And if they find a way in, they will come and take it. Again, a simple telephone call using a trusted number and contact can avoid a lot of the problems that we have here. So they've got onto your system and they've installed some ransomware. If your files were locked by ransomware and you had to pay a cyber criminal to release them, would you? And that's the question in our next poll. And this one, I'm sure some of you who are answering it just now are thinking, oh, put on the spot a bit. Is it just as easy as saying yes or no? What are your considerations? I'll give it another, let's 5 more seconds. All right, should we stop it there? Thank you. Well, delighted to see that yes has got no answers. Majority of people saying no, and some saying, obviously, I don't know, but I know I want my files back. This is a really difficult question to answer because it can actually only be answered by you. There is nobody in the cybersecurity world who can sit here and tell you that if this happens to you, this is what you absolutely have to do. We can advise and we can tell you what we think you should do, but you will still ultimately have to take that decision, because and you have to decide what data they've got and what the risk is. If it goes, what's that risk to your charity? All right, so let's move on and let's take a look at a piece of ransomware. So this box here You might recall back in May 2017, something called WannaCry, that was the name that was given to a piece of ransomware, hit a lot of NHS trust boards. And this is basically what happened. So you would come into your system and you'd be greeted by this message. Oops, your files have been encrypted. And you can see that you can recover them by sending $300 worth of Bitcoin to this address. So they've come in now, and we all know that when we have a first problem, we would phone up our IT department and say, my computer's not working. The very first thing they'll say is, have you tried switching it off and back on again? You can switch off and back on again your computer to your heart's content. It's still going to keep coming up. That is now there, and it's not going anywhere until you choose a way to deal with it. So it says $300. So you might think, $300, that doesn't seem that much. The first thing I would say is we always recommend do not pay. Do not pay the cyber criminals, okay? And we'll touch on why that maybe isn't such a good idea in just a second. But they want that $300 worth of Bitcoin. To give you an idea, that was what Bitcoin was trading at this morning. One Bitcoin worth 35,000. I did this presentation, similar one yesterday. That was just over 34,000. So it's jumped nearly £2,000 in a day. It fluctuates hugely, but you can send a bit of a Bitcoin, literally a percentage of a Bitcoin. So you think $300, that's, do you know what? I can live with that. So you send that $300. Are you going to get your files back? Well, the chances are that $300 is the opening bid. You've told the cyber criminals, I'm prepared to do business with you. And they will then come back and go, excellent, this is now actually how much you're going to have to pay to get those files decrypted and back to you. And you may find that that could be quite a lot. One organization that I was aware of that had multiple servers encrypted were told it was £1,000. They paid the first £1,000, and the cyber criminals said, that's great, that's your first server unencrypted. It's now 2,000 for the second, 3,000 for the third, and they had quite a few servers that were encrypted. So there wasn't a clear strategy set at the beginning to say exactly how is this going to work and what are you going to charge me. So we always say you do not pay the cyber criminals. And the question you have to ask yourself is, who are you paying? Are you paying a scammer who's in their bedroom with a bank of monitors? Are you paying an organized crime group, a nation state, or could you even actually be funding terrorism? You do not know where that money is going, but the chances are it's going to people that you do not want that money to go to. Okay, so how do you then deal with that? Well, you're going to have to think about how you're going to deal, what your response is going to be. How does it affect your charity if something like this is going to land in your inbox? Well, there's three obvious things that are going to affect your charity. One is it's going to have an impact on your reputation. That's one of the things that we treasure most. It doesn't matter which organization you work for, public, private, third sector. We need our reputations. Even as individuals, we trade on our reputations. A loss of donors, so donors that hear about that malware happening and information being lost and decide, I'm out, I'm not giving you money anymore. Or then just a hindrance to new people coming forward who actually want to give you money. And then that ultimately leads to a loss in revenue, financial loss and reputation. And that financial loss is very difficult to actually quantify, because if you've lost donors and you don't win new ones, is it just the amount of money that you perhaps chose to pay the cyber criminals, or the amount of money perhaps they stole in an invoice fraud or something like that? What about the time it took people to deal with the incident, time dealing with the police, and then the fact that people stopped giving you money? That amount of money then suddenly gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. And it's something that does need to be borne in mind when you think about how it could impact in the charity. It's not just a financial amount. It could actually be a lot more than that. So what can you do to stay safe? So the National Cybersecurity Centre's got 5 things you should look at. Avoid those phishing attacks. You need to know what to look out for. What are the signs, and report them if they come through using that NCSC email address I gave you earlier. So that's about education of your staff as well, and the volunteers. Protect from malware, your firewall. What about the controlling and downloading of software? So if a charity is giving somebody a computer to do their work, is it open? Do they have administrator rights? Can they download anything from the internet? The same goes with a smartphone. Can they take whatever they want off the internet? What about USB sticks? USB sticks are still a way of being able to get a virus in, because people will actually still see a USB stick lying on the street and will take it home or take it into their work and plug it in. I worked with an organization previously where they decided to test this, and they took 4 memory sticks and they dropped them in the car park of the business. They wanted to see what would happen. So all 4 were picked up as people arrived for work that morning. 2 of them took them straight to the front desk as they walked in to security and said, I found these outside. Don't know whose they are, but here you go. Great. The other 2 memory sticks were put in the pocket of a person who walked through the very expensive physical security that they had in place, walked to their desk and plugged it into their computer. It ran a wee program which told them that basically they'd been caught doing something they shouldn't. IT were notified and then obviously came to their desk and asked them why they picked up a random USB stick and plugged it into the computer that's connected to a network of a company that's worth quite a large sum of money. And of course, because that's what people do. So stop people, say to them, you're not allowed USB sticks, have a policy on it. Don't let them be able to be plugged in. Keeping your software up to date on your smartphones, not connecting to unknown Wi-Fi's in coffee shops when we obviously get back to coffee shops. If you've got business to do, don't do it on the Wi-Fi. Tether it to your phone and the 4G connection on your phone. All right. If you're going to use public Wi-Fi, use it to surf the internet, go to BBC News. Don't do shopping. Don't do an Amazon shop or even your Tesco food shop. Don't go and log into your business emails because you have no idea who else is on that network. And allow remote wiping. So if something's lost, you can wipe it remotely. Back up your data. So important. You've got to have a backup, whether that's in the cloud, whether it's a hard drive. I bought a 2 terabyte hard drive from Amazon. It cost about £40, which I plug into my computer at home once a week. And then I unplug it and I put it away safely. It could even be a memory stick that you use at home. It could even be something simple as a hard drive that you've got in your charity that you just put those critical files onto and then you remove from the building and keep somewhere safe. Don't leave it connected to the network because obviously if your network gets infected, so does the backup. And test it because the day that you need that, you need to know it is going to work. You need to know that when you plug it in, the files on there are correct, that they are all accounted for, and that when you load them back on, they will open as they should. But backing up your data when it comes to ransomware is absolutely key because you can wipe your entire system of the virus and reinstall from a backup. And use strong and unique passwords. And this is something I want to speak about right now. And it's our final poll question. Which of these do you believe is the most secure password? So here's our final poll of today. Excellent. Almost there. Great. Are we going to get 100%? So close. Give it another few more seconds. Okay, we'll leave it there. Let's end that one there. So 2 obviously clear winners in this one, a 10-character password of letters, numbers, and symbols, or 3 random words put together. So let's take a look at this. So there is a website that you can go to, howsecureismypassword.net. So, and you can type a password in here and it will tell you how long your average computer will take to break it. Now, I'm going to make it very clear. This is not just your average person. So it's going to require somebody with a bit of knowledge as to what they're doing. But I'm also want to stress this is not supercomputers. These aren't computers that have been custom built. We're talking about something you can buy off the internet today and just set it off to try and crack a password. So you can type a password in here and it will tell you how long the average computer would take to break it. So for example, the very first option I gave you there was where you were born. So if I click on, name of the place you were born. So I put Scotland with a capital S, I hasten to point out, and the average computer would take about 22 minutes to break that password. Then we've got your favorite sports team, Aberdeen FC. That's got 3 capital letters in it. So at least we've bunked it up to a month. So that's not bad. Again, not great, but at least it's better. Passwords numbers. So here we go. Random, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, thrown together, 10 of them. We're up to 5 years. So I know you would all sit there and go, 5 years, that is brilliant. That's just exactly, yeah, I'll be happy with that. What about 3 random words? 3 random words put together, 20 trillion years. So I've chosen table, window, garden because as I sit here, I have a table, I have a window to my left, and I can see my garden. Okay, so I put that together and with those commas in between, which you can replace with dashes, you can even put spaces in there. And it tells me it'll take the average computer 20 trillion years. If I was to even throw a number at the end, we're up to 2 quintillion years. And if you want to know what 2 quintillion years look like, it looks like that. That's 2 quintillion years. The point I want to make here is I don't need you. The saying goes, I don't need to outrun the bear. I just need to outrun you. I don't need all of you to be the absolute best of the best cybersecurity. I just want you to be good enough that if somebody starts to look at you, they decide, no, I can't even crack the password because they're not using the charity name as their password or where the charity's based. So I'm not going to even bother with them. I'm moving on to the next person. We want to stop charities and other organizations from being that low-hanging fruit, the easy victims. And something as simple as a password is literally your drawbridge to protect yourself. And it can be something as simple as that. So what we want you to do is start thinking about passphrases. So using words put together, ideally 15 characters long. Back to those 3 random words. It could be song lyrics, the opening line to a song. Is this the real life? Or even the letters at the beginning of each word. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. And you might think, well, I'm never going to remember that. And okay, the first time you do it, you might have to hum along a couple of times as you type them in. But I'll guarantee you after a week of typing that in every single day, you will fire that off on a keyboard very quickly. All right. You can use numbers, characters, punctuation marks, but if truth be told, you saw the difference of taking 10 random characters and turning it into 3 random words, how much more secure that was. You must have different passwords and passphrases for different accounts, okay? Especially financial information. You should not have a password or passphrase that you're using for, could be logging into the BBC, for example, or logging into Google or your email, and also be using that to log into your banking or anywhere else that your bank information is. For example, Amazon, Marks and Spencer, wherever you store those details, should always have different passphrases for each one. You've got to avoid that personal information. So you've seen from those 3 random words, I'm a fan of Queen. So I don't use Queen because it probably can be found out that I'm a fan of Queen. So avoid that personal information in those sports teams. Don't use genuine answers to verification questions. All you need is something like gov.uk do, which is put a word in here that you will remember to ask us if you forget your password. So they're not asking for your mother's maiden name, then what was your first car, where did you go to school, where were you born? It's just stick a word in here and remember it. And then the next time you forget your password, we'll ask for that word. So that's a lot of stuff I'm asking you to do. So how do you store it all? Well, you store it all using a passphrase manager or a password manager. So that's an app that you can use that goes on your phone. It also goes onto your computer, and it can also go onto your tablet, and it'll be synced. And it's an encrypted app. And the idea is you have one very strong password to get into the app. It will also use facial recognition and touch ID. And the idea is all of your passwords are stored in there. So if you were to ask me today, what is your password for Amazon? I have no idea because it's stored in there and I just copy it out of there and paste it into Amazon. In fact, I don't even need to do that because when I pasted it into Amazon, my browser asked me if I wanted it to store my password. And I said, yes, you can do that. If your browser says, would you like us to store that information, or says, would you like us to create a secure password and store it for you? Yes, you can. The National Cybersecurity Centre has done research on this, and they've proven that this is a safe way to be able to store your passwords. So please feel free to do it. And if you can, always turn on 2-factor authentication. So what's that? Something you know and something you have. So something you know is your username and your very, very strong password, which when you type into that website, you will then get a code texted to your phone. It may even, there's apps that you can use that will generate codes for you. You type that code into the website and it lets you in. And it's another layer. So if you get my email address and you get my password, you would go onto that website and you would type them in and hit enter. I would then get a notification going, thank you for trying to log into Amazon, LinkedIn, whatever. Here's your code. And I'm going to look at that and go, but I'm not trying to get into Amazon just now. So somebody's obviously got my information. So I now know to go to Amazon straight away and change my password. So that's how 2-factor authentication will help you. The other thing you can do is train your staff. The volunteers, there's some of the best tools that you got available to them. Give them that education. Give them that tool for them to identify phishing emails, to know what to do if they come across one, to know about reporting. And there's a free way that you can do that, which I will tell you about in just a second. But invest that in your staff. You know, talk to them about passphrases. Changing a passphrase today, changing the passwords to passphrases in your charity today is completely free. It's completely free. So do that. It's not something that's going to cost you anything. Something, okay, that might cost something, but is something that you might be interested in is going for some sort of certification, for example, Cyber Essentials. And I only bring this up because it's a government-backed scheme, okay? And what Cyber Essentials does is it looks at 5 technical controls that you've got within you will have within your charity, and it's going to test to see how secure those are. What Cyber Essentials is really good at is it's like a base, you know, it's looking at you from the very bottom up, and it'll tell you this is all brilliant. You've got all this really good. Here's a little thing over here that you need to improve on, and this is how you do it. So it'll give you a clear understanding of where you're at when it comes to dealing with your cybersecurity within your charity. Okay, helps guard against the most common cyber threats, and you can get a badge which shows that you take cybersecurity seriously, which is very important. There's a lot of businesses now they want that badge, and we want them to want that badge to show we take cybersecurity seriously. So just to finish off, where can you go to get advice? Well, Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, they've got a wealth of information on there. They've got access to policy templates. You can get signed up to the Cyber Resilience Bulletin. So that was started last year, which pulls together a lot of the cyber stuff that's going on in an easy to understand and follow way. It can be sent straight to your inbox every single time it comes out. It's about once a month it comes out now. Huge amount of work done by SCVO, Scottish Government, Police Scotland, and the other partners to pull that together. And also Alison Stone. So Alison is the Cyber Resilience Coordinator at SCVO, and she is an unbelievable fountain of knowledge when it comes to cybersecurity. So you can get in touch with Alison. I'll show you her email address at the end to ask her to also come along and help your charity with their cybersecurity. So a lot of information on SCVO. Huge amount on the National Cybersecurity Centre website. They've got guides for small charities. They've got response and recoveries. So if something actually happens to you, but I also want to point out the free 30-minute staff training. That's an online training system that you can get your staff to do. It takes 30 minutes. It's on their website and it's completely free. So there's a way of being able to get your staff engaged with cybersecurity, get the volunteers to watch it and run the little tests at the end, and they'll just feel a little bit more secure about what it is that they're doing. Everything that's on there is completely free, ncsc.gov.uk. If a lot of this you're thinking it doesn't really fit in with what I'm trying to do, or you might think Cyber Essentials is too much, or it doesn't really focus enough as a charity, ours is not as easy to just pigeonhole within Cyber Essentials. This is a slightly more technical way, but look at the 10 steps to cybersecurity. Okay, look at these extra parts. There's more detail about each of these broken down on the NCSC website, but if you follow them, you will find that your charity will become more secure. So even if you don't want to go for Cyber Essentials, but you still want to take some steps, follow the 10 steps to cybersecurity. And again, this infographic and all the other information is on their website. And then the last place I tell you to go to is SBRC, the Scottish Business Resilience Centre. They do a huge amount of work, but one of the things they are so passionate about is cybersecurity and protecting SMEs and charities. They've even now created an incident response helpline that you can call Monday to Friday. So if something actually does happen or you're looking for advice, call that number and you will get expert help and guidance, again, completely for free. There's no commitment. There's nothing on there. Even the partners they use, this isn't about trying to sell you anything. It's about keeping you safe. So if you need to, use that number. So if you do suffer a cyber attack, what should you be looking to do? Well, first and foremost, identify what has happened, what's been breached, what's going on at that time. Look at the NCSC response and recovery guidance. So get that off the website, get a copy of it. Consider reporting it to 101. If something has happened that's stopping your business from running, report it to them. Speak to SBRC and their helpline. Think about contacting the Information Commissioner's Office if you need to. And also think about OSCR and their notifiable event procedure, who OSCR obviously would like to be aware of any sort of major events that happen to charities that impact on their day-to-day sort of running. So you might want to consider speaking to them. The City of London Police started something called Tell to Protect Many, and I feel it's like the ethos of what I try to do. As I'm here today talking to you, and there's more than 2 of you on here, I teach you some basics, things that you can do, and that's all this is about. You will then go away and you will then tell 2 people. So you can go home today and tell loved ones about passwords and passphrases, about how they access their Amazon account. But you can also implement that in your charity today. And if they tell and they tell, we can make all the charities, the businesses, the whole of Scotland, a more safer place to do work and enjoy life online. Because let's face it, it's what we do just now. So much of our life is now online. If you'd like to, please spread the word about Cyber Scotland Week. if there's events you're enjoying, talk about them, but talk about the fact that you're just engaging with it. This is being seen around the world. There's been articles written in Switzerland, I know, for example, about what we are doing. So talk about it on the social networks, because we want people to see how good we are and how seriously in Scotland we take cybersecurity, to show that we are a country that you want to come and work in, that you want to come and do business in, you might want to set up a business, but also let's promote that charities are doing this for themselves, that they take cybersecurity seriously. Promote the fact that you want the charities to be secure. And if you want to come and work with us, we take your data really, really importantly. So please take a moment to just stick a tweet out, something on Facebook. It doesn't matter, just to say, as a charity, we did this today and we feel more secure because we did it. Here's some of those websites I was telling you about earlier on. Also includes the Ofcom telephone number. And there's Alison's contact details, alison.stone@scvo.scot. Please drop her a line. Just tell her that Robbie sent you, and she'll know who you're talking about. Appreciate you might not be able to grab a lot of this information, but as Sarah said, this is being recorded. It's going to be available on the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to pick it up and anything else we've spoken about there. Thank you very much. I know that's a lot of information, but because it's being recorded, the great thing is you can now go back and pick those bits out if there's anything you feel you missed or you want to maybe just look at again. So I shall finish there. I will stop sharing my screen and I will pass it back over to Sarah.
Thank you. That was so good. There's so much, as you say, information in there, and there have been some questions or comments that were added into the chat, most of which I think you have covered. But if anyone now has any questions for Robbie, please don't ask me any questions about cybersecurity. However, TechFest will make sure that we share this afterwards, so that, as Robbie said, we can spread the word. Does anyone have any questions for Robbie at this point? You can either ask using the Q&A box, or you can just use the chat box. Also, one thing to bear in mind, it's only Wednesday and Cyber Scotland Week does run all week. And
Absolutely.
There's a couple of things that I, as a board member, I'm attending an event specifically for charities and board members. There's so much on that program. So please do take a minute to go across and have a look on the Cyber Scotland Event Week program. Ian Stewart says it's the best presentation he's attended all week. Oh, that's thank you for letting us share that, because you've said it to everybody there.
Thank you very much.
There's a question here: is PIN access to laptops secure?
So using, we're talking then about pins, so the kind of thing we put in our laptops or on our iPads and our phones and all the rest of it. Yeah, absolutely. But again, it's back to that not using something obvious. I constantly get on to members of my family because I can pick up probably most stuff that belongs to my family, and I can guarantee I know what their 6-digit pin is. And I'm sure some of you here are all going, day of birth, month of birth, year of birth. That's the stuff we need to avoid. We need to come up with unique numbers that only we would know. And where at all possible, use those biometrics. So if you've got a laptop, a lot of them, like my one, has got a fingerprint scanner built into it. Use that as well. But as long as you're setting that PIN and you're keeping it secure and it's not using personally identifiable information, yeah, absolutely.
A spin-off topic on this, actually, Dr. Vivian Ming, who took part in TechFest, she created the software that's on an iPhone that is your face recognition software. And if you would like to watch her talk, it is available. Someone has asked what the YouTube channel is. It's TechFest Aberdeen. We can, for everyone who's participated today, you can join our mailing list through our website, www.techfest.org.uk, and you can follow us there. Someone's come through with a question: do you consider cyber insurance a desirable option?
That's a great question. Cyber insurance, one of those things that it's good to have, but you need to know what it's going to do for you, okay? Aside from that, what we really want people to do is get to a point where they don't need to have or even think about it, because it's not about responding to it, it's stopping it from happening in the first place. But if you're going to go for cyber insurance, we always talk about the fine print. You really need to read that fine print. So what is it exactly helping you with? Because if it's specifically saying that if somebody clicks on a link and therefore they have actively downloaded the virus, they might turn around and go, yeah, that's not going to be covered. But if somebody somehow gets onto your system through other nefarious means, through, for example, we've had incidents with SolarWinds recently where an update was just downloaded on a piece of software. Nobody knew it was infected. So they'll turn and go, yep, it's okay, we'll cover you for that. So absolutely, if you want to go for cyber insurance, the problem a lot of the time is they're looking for the payments to be made. And as I said, that's something that we need to really think long and hard about, and hopefully get to a point where the malware doesn't get on, so we don't even need to think about paying anybody. So, but yeah, just look at the fine print for the cyber insurance.
We have another question now. Thank you for the information. Great help. If you receive a phishing email, is there anywhere to report it?
So if you get a voice, no. So if the voice one in particular, it comes back under the phishing email with all the ones that we get. How do we who do we report it to, and how can it be contained? Because there's so many. Obviously, if it comes up with a number on your phone, then great. Take a note of that number, and you can still phone the police, and you could phone, if it's a bank or something, you can phone the bank, go onto the internet, find that trusted telephone number and phone the bank to say, somebody called me on this number impersonating you. But if you identify what it is and that you've stopped the call, unfortunately, it's about keeping your wits. There's nowhere at that point to be able to report that to if you've got no information to go on, I'm afraid.
There was another question. There is an option to use block sender on an email. Would you advise using this for potential phishing emails?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do the same on your phone. If it's a smartphone, you can go into your telephone call list, find the number, hit on the little information button. You can say block sender. The thing is, as we all know, anybody can buy it. You can get an email. I'm old enough to remember when you would buy an internet package and it came with a set number of emails. And the more emails you wanted, the more expensive the internet package was. Now, I have separate emails that I give to my kids' nursery, I give to my kids' school, that I give to my kids' taekwondo teacher. I have different. So if any of them get breached, I just bin that email and I move on and I'll create a new one. That's what the cyber criminals do. So they may send it to you, and if that one doesn't get through, there'll be another one. But yeah, set block. And if you've got any access to somebody that works in your IT, then tell them about it and they can block it on the network as well.
The information today has been so helpful. I'm just double checking that we've got all the questions answered. Oh, that's nice. Someone says that they feel like they know more about it now, and it takes the mystery out of the jargon. So that's brilliant. That's all we're here for.
Yeah, totally.
That's all you're here for. Our job was to provide a platform for sharing, and it's specifically coming from a charitable organization. We're in a similar position to many, that we want to protect everybody and do our bit. But at the same time, if we can learn, that's great too. I think that's everything. I'm sure everyone, as I say, has found today's presentation informative, interesting, and enjoyable. What I think is the trifecta. So if you can now join me in thanking Robbie for his enlightening talk and for also giving up his time. I think this is the busiest week you've got with Cyber Scotland.
It is.
So thank you. We'd love to hear what you've thought about today's presentation. So post-event, we will be sending you a link to a survey, which we'll also include in the comment box. Now, your feedback is really important to us, as this is genuinely how we improve and what we do at TechFest, but also how Robbie can ensure that next time we do this, we're specifically meeting your requirements in everything that we do. Please also remember to join our mailing list so that you can hear more about events like this. We've got, as I say, the most ambitious program this year, and there's some really exciting events coming up, so nothing that you'd want to miss. But wherever possible, because of the new opportunities we've got now, we are recording as much as possible and sharing it on our TechFest Aberdeen YouTube channel. It's scary to think a year ago that channel had nothing on it, and now it's absolutely jam-packed. So lots and lots to watch for the whole family, and lots of information there as well. We also at TechFest thank you for coming, and hope to see you again online and in person whenever we can. But thank you so much for coming and making today's event so great, and huge thank you to Robbie and the team at Converge for partnering with TechFest on today's event. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.